I'm here as Widening Participation Manager at the University of Edinburgh, but not to talk about University of Edinburgh. If anyone does have any specific University of Edinburgh questions, I'll be around at the end. And some of the examples I might use at Edinburgh Uni, just for ease, but it's sort of all general. Some of the things I'm going to cover, I'll probably skip through quite a lot of this because I'm conscious of time. So we've got a mix of 4, 5 and 6 year. So some of these will be more relevant if your sons or daughters are thinking of applying to uni this year. To be honest, the advice will probably be exactly the same in a couple of years anyway. And some of the other things, it's actually really important that you know now if they're just going into 5th year, or next year going into 5th year. So they're thinking first of all what they want to do. And it could be, one thing I would say is, it could be that middle one that you'd recognise, something vocational, something that's going to train them to do a job. That could be law, it could be medicine, dentistry, teaching, that kind of thing. But a lot of employers are interested in a degree. So one thing that we always say is, if it's something completely new, maybe something you haven't heard of, but your sons or daughters are interested in it, do think about it, get to really research the course and see if it's really right for them. And it could be something that they're already doing at school, they want to find out a bit more about it, or it could be something completely different. If they've got to the stage where they think, right, yeah, I really quite fancy going and studying biological sciences, biology, that's fine. But that's job one, deciding what to apply for. There are literally, if you take that example of biology or biological sciences, there are literally hundreds of options, even just in Scottish universities and higher education colleges. So how do they then decide where to go? They're looking at entrance requirements, which I'll talk about in a second. They're looking at this stuff as well. How much flexibility is there in the course? Could they add on different aspects to the degree? Could they add in little bits and pieces? How is it assessed? Is it mainly exams, or is there continual assessment, that kind of thing? So if they're at the stage, particularly A6 is applying this year, and they've got an idea of what they want to do, they've not quite decided which uni yet, that's the sort of stuff they're looking into, like where do they want to go? They've got to be happy with the actual degree, and they've also got to be happy with the actual university. It's an open day season, so some of you might have been up in Edinburgh on Saturday there for our open day. All the universities will have open days between October and November. You're welcome to come even if you're just in 4th year or 5th year. They're obviously sort of more designed for people who are thinking of applying this year. The point of open days and doing the research online is to think, right, okay, I want to do biological sciences, this is a university I've heard of, this university looks good, but is it somewhere I want to be for 4 or 5 years? That's how long we're talking, sometimes it's 3, but generally. And that's the sort of things we're considering. It's not just enough, the uni does the course I'm interested in, I've got the entrance requirements, I've got to live there for this long, what's the accommodation like? Is there any extra money available? Is there any extra bursaries that university is going to give? What support's available? You obviously as parents are particularly, concerned about that. What support is available for your sons and daughters if they need help with finance, if they need help with their course, that kind of thing. So these are the sorts of things we're looking into as well. I should caveat the pictures on here that was a sunny day in Edinburgh at Paul's. Right, this is what I get asked about mostly. I'm going to put this down because it's actually annoying me. I'll pick it up again in a minute. Right, so, entry requirements. The problem with this is, the main issue with this is it varies so much across Scotland. Even if we just take Scottish universities and we're not talking about the rest of the UK, you could have a degree, use the biological science example again, you could have that degree and one university might have entrance requirements of 5 A's at higher, and another university might be lower. So the important thing is to ensure that you're very clear about those, because when you get to the stage of applying for UCAS, which is come on that in a minute, that's the kind of organisation that every young person or anyone who's applying for university goes through, they have a maximum of 5 choices on there. So what they don't want to be doing is applying for any degrees where they just don't have the entrance requirements, because it will be a waste of their application. And what anyone like me or all the advisors in the school want to do is give your sons and daughters the best chance of getting offers for university if they're interested in university. So if we've been having this chat 10 years ago, we might have said, they've not quite met the entrance requirements, but you never know. They might get, there might be a wee bit of flexibility. With competition the way it is for university at the moment, it's very unlikely there will be flexibility in these entrance requirements. It's important to check them. The unis try to be as transparent as possible with their entrance requirements, but sometimes it can be a bit difficult to say, does that really mean, do I have to get that in this year? Do I have to, can we do some more next year? If you get any queries at all, there's always people you can contact at universities to just double check, because you don't want to waste your applications. These are the sorts of things to look at. Minimum requirements, that's job one. Have they actually got what they need, or have they got the potential to get what they need? If that's a tick, then you move on to the next bit, right? Is there any specific subjects that they require? And a lot of people miss this, and I'm going to use the biological sciences version example again, because this comes up all the time. Every single one of the biological sciences degrees that we offer at Edinburgh University require higher chemistry, right? Because it just does. It's just the content of the biological sciences course with quite a lot of chemistry in it. A lot of people, probably in the hundreds every year, apply to our biological sciences degrees. They could have brilliant hires or A-levels or whatever, but they have missed the fact that even though it's a biology degree, they need the chemistry and they're immediately rejected. Now, other unis who do biological sciences do not ask for chemistry, and that's fine, their courses are different, but that's just the sort of thing I'm talking about to check. Likewise, things like minimum level of maths, minimum level of English, that kind of stuff. If they've got some in 5th year and some in 6th year, does that make the entrance requirements, are they asked for more? Is there any tests they have to do, interviews, all that kind of thing? Again, nowadays with everything on the web, it should all be there, but again, if there's any queries, there will always be a contact form or an email that you can contact for the universities. You know, it's as if I was mind reading myself that it was biological sciences I've used in the example. Right, so this is an example of how universities present their entrance requirements. Although it's an example of how every uni presents their entrance requirements. Every uni is a bit different, but they're usually quite similar to this. The way that we do it is we have our standard requirement. Now that's at the top there, and that's the one that the majority of applicants will need to meet in order to be successful to get an offer. The standard requirements. Doesn't mean that everyone who gets them will get an offer. We look at other things as well. They might look at personal statement, that kind of stuff. If it's very competitive, we might not be able to make an offer to everyone that's got the 4 A's there. That's job one. Second job is for widening access applicants. So universities want to encourage students from different backgrounds that maybe won't have had the same opportunities as other people to go to university, and you'll often find there's a lower entry requirement for them. Unis use different words for that. We call it minimum entrance requirements for widening access applicants. Glasgow, I think, call it a reduced offer or a widening access offer, contextual offer. There's all different phrases that are used, and it should be very clear on the university's website what the criteria is to use for that. We've got like a checker, you can put all your details in and find out, but every uni's got something a bit different. But that's the start of our degree, find different biological sciences, but as I say, you read a bit further down, and that's where you get the information about the actual subjects you need. And as I say, you need both biology and chemistry at B or above, and one of them has to be an A, right? So it's not enough. I had a conversation with a boy today, and he had read that bit, he'd read the top bit, but hadn't read underneath, and he didn't have the subjects. He was wanting to do psychology, and he didn't have any maths. He didn't have science, and we asked for that in, okay? So it's really important that you go past the grades and actually look, is there any other requirements? What does that actually mean? So I've said there, your minimum for us, for biological sciences, 2 A's, 2 B's. But what do we actually mean by that? At Edinburgh, it means exactly that. We don't equate, so we don't, if somebody's got 3 A's and a C, that wouldn't be enough for us. But the important point is other unis might equate those using like UCAS tariff points. So that's where they give a number of points to A, a number of points to B, and they don't actually mind as long as you get to that number. Fewer and fewer unis are using that now. I know that Queen Margaret's still using it, but fewer and fewer unis are using it, they're using more the actual grades. So don't take it for granted, all right? We have had people before saying, well, it says you need 4 A's, but I've got, it says you need 3 A's and 2 B's, but I've got 4 A's and a C, so that's surely enough. And it isn't, because we don't look at the C's, so they actually don't have enough. Okay? So just be really careful with that. Minimum requirements, I've pretty much said this already, but it's what most students have got some kind of concession that they can give to widening access students. And they also usually have something on their website that will tell you whether you would be eligible for that. And it varies depending on the uni and what they look at. They'll look at home postcodes because there's target areas the government wants to focus on. Might look at school progression rate to higher education. They'll definitely look at whether a young person has care experience or not, that kind of thing. And these kind of factors will come into play and possibly give somebody a lower offer. But every university has got loads of information about those on their websites. Why does this even matter? Exactly what I said at the start. Because we've got 5 choices in UCAS, and we don't want somebody to have nothing. We want them to really think, what's realistic options here? Even if they've got an amazing set hard in 5th year, there's never any guarantees, so they really have to think very carefully, where do you want to go? Have I got a chance to get in? But also, this is something that you're going to be investing in for a few years, 3, 4, 5 years. So is it really, I'm not saying if you start and it's the wrong course for you, you can't change. You can, usually you can change, but it's just really important that you've put in that thought and thought, is this really what I want to do? And part of that is the personal statement that the school will be doing a lot of work on soon, which is a kind of mini essay they have to write in their UCAS application. You have to do similar one for college as well. It may be used as part of the admissions process at some unis, but first and foremost, it's an exercise for applicants to sit down and think, am I doing the right thing? Is this really what I want to do? Ask myself, why do I actually want to study sociology or medicine? What is it I'm really interested in? So the personal statement was very useful for that. The UCAS system at Bench already, University Colleges Admissions Service, something like that. And that's what you use to apply to any university course, and also some of the courses that might be taught at colleges as well. The deadline, I shouldn't even bother putting the deadline up. 15th of January, that is not, if your kids are in 6th year at the moment, that's not their deadline. Their deadline is whatever this man says it is, okay? Because if the school has got to get their reference together, has got to get their personal statement checked, it's got to make sure everything's, ready to go. So although the UCAS deadline is midnight on the 15th of January, if the school says they want everything done and dusted by end of November or whenever, that's really important it's done because the school needs time to get the reference together. The unis look at grades, personal statement and the teacher reference as well, or the guidance teacher reference too. So if the school offers any assistance, help with getting all this together, then the least your sons and daughters can do is stick to the deadline. There is an earlier deadline if anyone's thinking of medicine, dentistry, vet medicine, Oxford, Cambridge, much earlier, next week in fact. If they're applying to enter for next year. I'm assuming if any of you are in that boat, you kind of know about that already, and you're all sorted. Next steps. So, still help your sons and daughters with their application and the sort of, the actual logistics of putting that into the website. And then they kind of just sit back and wait. UCAS put all this out to all the universities they've applied to, and then the universities look at the application and start making decisions. We're always asked, how long does that take? It really isn't an easy answer. Some unis, if they get their application, they go, yep, they've got exactly what we need, and we know there's enough places for that course, bang, offer, we might get an offer before Christmas. Other unis, they might wait till everyone's applied so they can really do a comparison with all the applications and then start making rolling offers from February, March. We're always really late. We sometimes don't get our decisions out till the end of March. Unis aren't given a knock on the wrist until end of March, so it could be as late as that. And you could actually get maybe one decision back from one uni before Christmas and then be still waiting. That's okay. The young person doesn't have to make any decisions until they've heard from every uni, all right? So don't panic. If say your son or daughter is still waiting to hear and their pals have had all their decisions back, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to get their offers. It just will take a longer time depending on the university. They keep a look on that on UCAS Track, which they can sign in at. They get email alerts if anything comes in. They could get a conditional offer, an unconditional offer, or they could be told, look, we can't give you an offer. Unconditional offer is exactly that. You've got what you need from 5th year. We really want you, sending a taxi to your door, all that, we really want you to come to us. Nothing else to do in 6th year. I'm back to 7th. Conditional offer is we think you're great, we still need you to do something else. We still need you to get this higher, or that National 5, or this advanced higher. That's a conditional offer. All right? Please, if your sons and daughters are lucky enough to get unconditional offers, which means you don't have to get any more grades for uni, but they're still in 6th year, and they're doing their advanced hires, or they're doing their hires, please, a plea from me, as somebody works in university, and I'm sure from teachers as well, please ensure they continue to work hard in 6th year. We've seen it so many times. A young person gets an unconditional offer from us in like January, let's say, and goes, oh, that's great, I don't have to do anything. They take their foot off the gas, they don't do too well in their exams, but they don't care because they've got their unconditional offer. They get to uni and they really struggle because they haven't worked for 8 months. All right? So it's really, really important. We used to, I don't know if we still do, our principal used to send out letters to every student with an unconditional offer saying, great, we're really chuffed for you, keep working hard. Okay? So that's a huge plea. So they can get up to 5 decisions, 5 offers if you like, and this is when they've got to really think about what they're doing. If they're lucky enough to get an unconditional offer from the university they want to go to, that's it, done. There's no backup, they just take that and that's their firm choice, if you like. Call that an unconditional firm. If the uni they really want to go to has made a conditional offer, we'd always recommend they have what's called an insurance offer, a backup choice. And the backup choice obviously needs to have lower entrance conditions, yeah? And that, again, people get this wrong every year. If one university says we want 2 Bs to meet your conditions, and another says we want you to get 1 B, there's no point putting the 2 B conditions down as your backup, is there? You need to kind of think, what is a realistic backup? And that's why, coming full circle, that's why now is important with the researching of the entrance requirements, so that when they apply for 5 courses, they've got that possibility. They're not just going to get 5 really high offers, they're going to get a bit of a mix. All right? So they don't have to rush with that. They got all their decisions back. Say by the end of March, they've got to like June or something. I can't remember exactly to decide. Unis, first and foremost, it's grades they're looking for, but they do look at the personal statement as well. Don't have a lot of time to go through this. They need to think about, first and foremost, what it is they're applying to do and why they want to do it. And weirdly, sometimes that's what's missing. We hear so much about how great this person is, and I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this, and you get to the bottom of the person statement and you go, what is it you want to study? The majority of the personal statement is about why you're passionate about the subject, what academically you're doing that links into that subject and that kind of thing. The best personal statement in the world, with Duke of Edinburgh and sport and everything else, it's not going to make up for it if you haven't got the grades and you haven't told us exactly why you want to do the degree. I'm conscious of time, so I will skip past it. Right. I've put a wee plug for our open days there, and I've said questions, but I'll wait till the end, and then if anyone's got any questions they want to ask in front of everyone, that's fine. Or I'll hang around at the end for one-to-one questions. Okie dokes.
Some of the things that you were talking about that were really getting home with me, because we made our deadlines for the 6 years really early this year because Mrs. Walker is leaving to have a baby. And the 6 years have been knocked out apart. We have got well over 2/3 of our 6 years have done the personal statements. I'm looking at drafts that now need very little redrafting before they're good to go. And I was talking to Mrs. Walker earlier today. She has done 6 of her references. That has got to be a world record. I have never finished, apart from people applying for medicine and dentistry that have to go way earlier. I've never written a reference before the so we're well ahead of the game. We've also, our 5th years, I've never heard so many 5th years talking about being interested in applying in this process. So you give me some great ideas for how to do something like that. So thank you very much.